Good morning and welcome everybody to this gentle yoga this morning. It is Sunday morning. I'm here in Kingston, Ontario, in my office with my little doggy, who I'm sure will be all over me while I practice gentle yoga this morning. But my intention this morning is to have a practice that's really really soothing, really gentle, just easy like a Sunday morning. So it's almost like a practice that you could just do even in bed. So I don't have the capacity to record from my bed, but if I could, that would be my intention today. But we're gonna start off just coming to a comfortable seated shape. So maybe you're seated on a couple of blankets, maybe you're sitting on a chair and just taking a big reach. Maybe arms are wide. Be careful you're not overarching your back, and as you inhale, reaching up, maybe taking a little bit of a gentle side bend, whatever feels good in your body this morning. And then come to a high kneeling position. So a position where you're kneeling up high on your knees. Take an inhalation and reach the spine forward. Maybe let the head drop back. Give yourself a hug and round the spine back. And then inhale, take a big stretch, open to the chest. And exhale to round and curl. Maybe circle the shoulders a couple of times. And change the direction. Maybe circling your wrists. Your neck. Starting to just wake up the joints of your body, a gentle twist. Nothing too intense. And then over to the other side, same idea. And we're going to come to hands and knees if you want to slowly make your way to hands and knees. And from hands and knees, maybe pat around, reach your hips side to side. Try to find what feels like a neutral spine. So not flattening out the back, but none of your curvatures are overly exaggerated. And then tip just your tail to the sky, to the ground, to the sky, to the ground, to the sky, to the ground. And then try to keep your tail still and tip the heart up and down. Up. So I'm working really hard to keep my seat from moving and trying just to move with my upper chest. And then we're gonna just sink back to a child's pose. So take the knees nice and wide, reach the arms forward. You could come down onto forearms. You could support your head with your hands if you want. Maybe sliding your seat side to side. And here, just bring the breath into the back of the body. There's space in between each one of your ribs. So try to find that space with the breath. Nothing too intense, no forcing. The thing about the breath is the breath is already there. I'm laughing because my dog has decided she's a goat. And usually in terms of finding a more full breath, it's an effort in moving things out of the way to allow the breath to come, as opposed to forcing breath. Now, after you're done your next exhalation, we're gonna come back up to table, and then from tabletop, just swing your legs around and make your way back down to your back. So in the same position maybe that you had a little sleep in. You could have something under your head, you could have something underneath your hips, whatever feels good for you. And we're going to start off just gently rolling side to side. So I want you to experiment with different versions of this kind of roll. Maybe you're going to take the feet away from your seat or closer to your seat. Maybe your feet are wider apart, arms on the body, arms out to the side. Rolling a lot or just rocking side to side, whatever feels best for you. And then come to a still position on your back. And for a few breaths, see if you can notice the breath in and out. Remember when we were in our child's pose position and facing downwards, we could fill the back of the body with the breath. So here I'm asking you to fill up in the side body and really into the belly, welcoming the breath down towards the belly in a soft, easy, comfortable way. Then I want you to imagine like your pelvis was a clock. So, like up near your belly button, just below your belly button, that's like 12 o'clock, and down at the base of your pelvic floor, that would be like 6 o'clock, and then hip bone to hip bone, 3 and 9. And you're just going to try to circle through every hour of the day. So it's a really subtle sort of movement that's happening. But if you imagine circling your hips, starting at 12, you're kind of lifting your tailbone away from the floor and drawing your navel closer to the floor. And then a little towards the left or the right, depending on which way you've imagined your clock. Really sending your hip way out to the side, circling around. When you make your way to 6 o'clock, it's like you're drawing your tailbone down into the earth, and your belly is, or your navel's kind of lifting away. Try not to hold your breath or clench your breath as you do this. We're going to circle the other way now. Go nice and slowly. For me, it takes a lot of concentration to move to some of those hours. And once you've made your way around, take a breath or two. If you're not already there, I'll invite you to bend your knees and bring your feet to the mat. Visualizing the space where the leg bone plugs into your hip socket. On your inhale, just take the legs a little bit away from one another, rolling to the outer edges of your feet. And on your exhale, the legs come back towards each other. So it's almost like you're moving out to a butterfly pose, but the feet aren't going to come together and touch. So start really small and notice how you can find this movement without any movement through the rest of the body. So you can do this movement without tipping or tucking your tail, without changing the shape of your ribs. And then let the movement grow bigger and bigger. Be conscious trying to move both legs at the same time. And if it feels like one is moving before the other, just bring your attention or your mind into the sort of slower moving leg. If you feel any clicks or cracks or creaks, just start back where you were. We'll do this for another breath or two. And then come on back to a resting shape. That could be legs straight or knees bent. Maybe your hands are on your belly as you try to invite breath in between the rib cage, into the soft part of your stomach. Now, for those who've practiced with me before, we've done this before, but if you're newer to the practice, we're going to do a little bit of a lymphatic flush. So your lymphatic system, simply put, it's like the system of waters in your body. So it keeps things flowing and moving. When you feel stuck, or when you feel like you just can't shake this cold or this pain or what have you, the lymphatic system may be involved. So here the intention is to bring your feet kind of right behind your bum, relax the body as much as possible. And it's a really simple, gentle rocking back and forth. So in essence, what I'm doing is just a little push into my feet, just enough to slide my body up slightly, like across my mat towards my head. And then when I stop that pushing, my body will just bounce back down to where it was. And so the effect of doing that sort of quickly and with a lot less thought and just kind of bouncing here, it almost feels like you would if you were just gently bouncing your heels, or maybe like really casually, softly jumping on like a mini trampoline. As you breathe and do this, we're going to do this for about a solid 60 seconds. And you might notice that things come up. It might start to get agitating. It might start to bring up waters, like make you feel like you need to use the bathroom, or bring out some tears and make the nose run, or what have you. Just allow for whatever is. Notice the breath. And try to really resist the temptation to clench or restrict any movements as we continue bouncing for about 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and then coming to stillness. Just notice whatever you notice, feeling what you're feeling. Now I'm going to next ask you to just gently roll to one side so you can see and come up towards a seated shape. Take your time because we've been on our backs for a couple of breaths. Move with care here. And we're going to use our blanket in a slightly different way. So grab your blanket. You're going to open it up a little bit longer and fold it in this like narrow position. So you'll end up with kind of a more long fold, and that's going to go back at the top of your mat. From there, keep a good distance between your seat and where that blanket starts. And you're going to tuck your tail and roll down. Look out, kitty. Look out, honey. So once you come to rest down, the blanket ought to be kind of where your shoulder blades start and nestled between the shoulder blades. So it's a very subtle chest opener. And if you feel like your head is dropping back, so if you look straight ahead and you kind of see a lot of back wall, you could take some of this excess that's back here and fold it to be underneath your head, if that's feeling more comfortable for you. Now have the legs wherever they feel comfortable. No pinching in the back, no reason to clench. And here, we're going to allow for gravity to help us kind of open the shoulders. So this is one of what I would call like a very restorative pose. So we're getting a little bit of reversing gravity, especially for those of us who might spend a lot of time over a computer. This is a really nice passive way to open up through the chest. You can experiment with where you want your arms to be in space. And from here, take your thumb and touch it to your index finger, your pointer finger on both sides. And then as you breathe in, imagine the air is coming in through this little circle that you made and moving up your arm, into your lungs, and then down the opposite arm and out. So as you breathe in both circles, left and right, it kind of comes in and swirls and crosses and then out again. So you're making this visualization of like crossing the breath with every inhale and every exhale. And once you've done a full round of breath, so an inhale followed by an exhale, take your thumb and slide it across to now the middle finger. Breathing in, imagining the air crossing over, and breathing out down the opposite arm, out the opposite hand. And then to the ring finger, breathing in. And out. The pinky finger. And then we're going to go back again to the ring finger. Middle finger. Index finger. We'll do that a few more times just with your breath. On your next round, same thing, but this time we're going to make little circles. So just circling the thumb and the finger as you barely touch. Continue this visualization of breathing in and breathing out. And then let your thumb touch to the middle finger. We'll do the same. Continue along to the ring finger and the pinky. And lastly, as we go back again, we'll tap, 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 just barely tapping the fingers. And then the middle finger. Index finger. And then take a big stretch with the hands, maybe stretch with the arms. You could snow angel your arms around if there's room. Interlace fingers if you want. Push your heels away from your hands away from your heels, all the while staying connected to the ground beneath you. Nothing too intense or painful or pulling. And then slowly move your body out of this position. So we'll bend the knees if they're not already there, maybe bouncing like you did before, or rocking side to side. Gently rolling yourself to one side. And coming up towards seated. So it works really well if you are doing this somewhere comfy, like from your bed, for example, because you can scoot your seat right to the edge of the bed and then just hang forward into a forward fold. If that's not available to you, you could also come to sit onto a chair, or we're going to come to standing and fold forward. So take your time. Make your way up to stand, and then from standing, you're going to curl yourself all the way down to fold. So soften the knees quite a lot whether you're sitting or standing, and think of lifting up through the hamstrings as you fold forward here. So try not to feel this as a strain or pulling through your back, more through your legs and a deep, real hinge at the hips. And then slowly we're going to roll ourselves up one vertebra at a time. You can use your legs if you'd like to help you roll back up towards a tall seated shape. And once you're there, rolling the shoulders back and embodying yourself for a moment. So almost really landing into yourself here. Connect to your right foot, your left foot. And in a moment or two, I'm going to welcome you into another restorative pose. So if that little supported back bend really felt amazing, I'll invite you to move back into that back bend, or any shape that feels really comfortable. If you'd like, however, I'll introduce another restorative posture to give you the option of coming to that if you'd like. So here's a time, because the practice is slowing down, here's a great time for you to bundle up with a nice sweater or warm clothes to put on your socks, or cover with a blanket, whatever's going to make you feel most physically comfortable. For the next pose I'm going to show you, you might need 2 blankets, but if you only have one handy, that's just fine. Lucy, I need my blanket, please. So we're gonna take the blanket, and this time we're gonna roll the blanket into a little bit of a roll. And how high you roll your little your blanket here is going to depend completely on your practice. So give it a try, and if it feels like too much sensation, you can always make your roll smaller. And if it feels like maybe you're looking for a little more of a side bend, you can roll it a little taller or have another blanket to roll. So from here, we're going to slide that roll to the side of us, and your hip bone is going to go down on the floor. Your arm will come straight out in front, and this blanket is going to go underneath your bony rib cage, so kind of right under your sternum. So if I had another blanket handy, it would go under my head here. You can also support with your arms, so like arm on top of arm, like a little pillow. So here, the intention is to have your weight grounded through your shoulder, grounded through your hip, and there's an opening that's happening, a really subtle opening on the side of the body. Nothing too intense again, but it really gives us an opportunity here. Can I have this, please, Skippy? It really gives us an opportunity to open up into the side ribs and allow for a little more of a full breath. If you find yourself bracing or clenching, maybe lowering the roll, the size of the roll that's under your body. And here you could be completely still and soft and allow gravity to take over and kind of slowly deflate as though you were sinking heavier and heavier, or as though the blanket was kind of morphing into your side. You could, if you'd like, also just take a gentle rock forward to more of the front of your ribs, and then maybe a gentle rock back to the back of your ribs. And you could take this time to keep this kind of rocking and rolling. Your body really, your nervous system really likes this rolling kind of movement because it introduces new sensation in a really gradual way. Nothing is too intense. And while we're rolling out or kneading out some tension on the side of your body that's on the blanket, we're also finding some more space and a little bit of opening on the side of your body that's away from the blanket. When you lie on your side, if you feel any sort of a tension or pulling in the outer edges of your hip, you're always welcome to take a folded blanket or a pillow and bring it between your knees, your thighs. Maybe stay here for another 20 breaths or so. No rush, just counting with every exhalation. Once you've done those 20 breaths, you can choose to stay exactly where you are. You could choose to come onto the other side if you've taken the side lying option. You could choose to come into any other posture that you might be craving. So take your time. If you're going to move, prepare your body and nervous system with first the thought of movement. And then really slowly, knowing there's a little bit of fragility by virtue of just being in one pose for a long time. Use your arms to help you come up. When you find the same pose on the other side, you're going to want to sort of re-roll your little prop beneath you, or at least turn it like a little quarter turn. As you come down to rest on the other side, you might notice that it feels quite different. And that's normal. It's very common that we don't tend to do things equally on both sides of the body. So you might need to adjust the height of the prop that's underneath you, but just give yourself some time to settle into the shape, because on the other side, we were there for quite a few breaths. So like the end of the shape, or how you remember the end of the shape felt, will be quite different than the shape feels on this side. So take your time, come down to rest. And then again, you could be completely still here, or you could start to slowly rock forward, rock back, forward, back. And once again, we're going to be here for about 20 breaths or so. So after you're done those 20 breaths, then you have another choice. So we're going to move to our very last posture of the practice, which is a posture of integration. And it's one where typically it's the restorative pose that we do at the end of every class. So that could look very different from my body and your body, whatever pose feels like rest for you. You're going to come into that shape and practice the same thing we just did for our restorative poses. So first, find physical comfort in your body. Then letting go of any effort regarding your breath. And then allow your mind to focus on a single pointed focus. So maybe you're going to do that same exercise we did with the fingers tapping, or rubbing, or just touching. Maybe you're going to count your exhalations. Whatever you choose to have as your anchor, keeping that as your anchor for the next few breaths, allowing for your focus to be rest, ease, and comfort until you hear my voice again. No matter what shape you're in, just notice yourself breathing here. And start to slowly and gradually move your body. Maybe taking that big stretch out, or maybe tucking in, maybe rolling to one side. And when you're ready, coming back up towards a seated shape, whatever comfortable shape you'd like. And then I want to take a moment here. Maybe you're welcome to join me giving gratitude to the people upon whose land we live and practice. Gratitude to the ancestry of yoga and our teachers that came before us. And my gratitude to all of you for joining me in practice this morning, especially with this little monkey nipping around at my fingers. So I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week.